Hey everybody! Today we're going to be going over outlining and a really simple trick you can use to bring some life into an otherwise flat image. So let's get started. So once you have a sketch down that you really like, go ahead and grab your favorite liner pen. I like to use the Copic Multi-Sketch in size 0.1, but you can use any size that you like. And this part is pretty straightforward, but go ahead and start outlining all of the defined lines you made in your sketch. And don't worry about making tiny mistakes right now because we can fix them later. And something I do for my style is I like to be pretty minimal with my lining on the face, just because there's not a lot of really harsh lines on the face in most angles, and a lot of the details of the face can be made with shadows when you're coloring. So I like to just do really small lines for the nose and the mouth and then color those in later. So the lines might look a little funny at first, but you just have to trust the process. So since this is literally just putting down lines that are already there, I'm gonna speed past this and get to the good stuff. Okay, so now your drawing is completely outlined and it looks pretty good, but it feels like it's missing something. This is where I like to go back in and create some dimension in the drawing, and I do that by adding various thicknesses to the lines that are already there. So for the face, like I said, I like to keep the lines pretty minimal, but there are certain spots where you do want to make them darker. So the bottom of the lip, underneath the nose, and under the eyebrows are where I like to create just a little bit of a thicker line to give it some dimension. You do the same thing with the outline of the face, and this is really where you can fix some of the mistakes you might have made. So I know a lot of the time for me, I will make maybe part of the jaw a little lower than I wanted to, or the cheekbone a little higher than I might have wanted to. So with this step, it's pretty easy to fix those mistakes because you're adding an extra line to one side of it, like one side of the line that's already there, and you can create the illusion that that line was smaller than it was before or larger. That might be a little hard to understand without actually seeing it in action, but just imagine that you tried to draw a completely straight line, but maybe your hand wasn't steady and you made the right side higher than the left side. You could fix this with this method by making a thick line on the top of the left side and a thick line on the bottom of the right side, and it would give the illusion that it was a straight line. I used this method here to make her cheek a little bit thinner because I put a thicker line on the inside of the line that was already there. If I wanted to make her cheek a little fuller, I would have put a thick line on the outside of the line that I created before. I also like to go in and put little tiny, I guess, triangle shapes where the darkest shadows would be in the line art. So where there's a really defined shadow area, like where the neck meets the head, where her hair is sitting over her shoulder, the curves of the hair themselves. Anywhere where a dark shadow would fall, that's where I like to put these little black triangles. In a lot of my drawings, I do like to do more detailed lining in the hair itself, but I figured I would save that for a hair tutorial video. This is just for outlining. But it's basically the same concept. So if you wanted to do more detail in the hair, you would just create lines that go along with the wave or whatever shape hair that you're doing, and just make some of those lines thicker. So for this outline of the hair, I like to do the thicker lines on the inside of the curls that are already curved inward. And for the space where it's curved out, that's where I like to put the thicker line on the outside. So it kind of makes it a little bit more dramatic than it already is and really gives it some dimension and life. And if you really want to have some fun with the hair, try using angled thick lines instead of just really smooth lines. That really gives it some edge. So you can see on the outward curl that I just did, I made it a more angled line instead of a smooth one, and it just makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish re-outlining this hair, and then we'll talk about the flowers. Okay, so I've never actually drawn or outlined flowers in this style before, so this was kind of new for me. But I wanted to talk about it because the same rules that apply to outlining these flowers is going to apply to anything that you want to outline. So just like the face, how we made the thicker lines on the bottom of the lip, the bottom of the nose, underneath the eyebrows, it's the same thing with these flowers. So I make a lot of the darkest lines where the darkest shadows would be on a normal picture of a flower. Since some of these petals are on top of the other petals, that's where I'm going to make my thickest lines at, is where those two petals meet, because that's where a naturally occurring shadow is going to be. These are the same rules you're going to use for pretty much anything else that you outline. So if you're doing clothes, the thickest lines are going to be where the underside of the folds are, where the shirt is hanging over the pants, where the sleeves are resting over the skin of the arm. Anywhere that a naturally occurring shadow would be is where you want your thickest lines to be. And to continue adding dimension to the rest of the lines, just keep doing various levels of thickness. The goal is to make sure that every single line on your drawing is not just one size. You want every single line to have some variation of thickness to it, because just a single straight line is very flat, kind of boring to look at. Like, you can see the difference here between the flower that I'm currently doing versus the very flat flower right behind it. It's a very simple, very tedious step that really just brings character to your drawings. So one last time, I'm just going to finish lining these and then I'll show you the before and after. Alright, I hope you guys learned something today, and I hope this helps, and good luck on your art journey.